Welcome to Roll, Ponder, and Play, a podcast dedicated to crafting stories through the application of role-playing game engines, combined with creative thinking and propelled into the ether by the barest of prompts. I'm Jared Hess, taking on all the roles of Game Master, Solo Player, Author, and Narrator. Come with me on a journey, and together let us explore realms of shadow, danger, and wonder. One roll can decide the fate of many things.
Welcome to episode 30 of the Queen of Shadows podcast on Roll, Ponder, and Play. I'm Jared Hess, Game Master, Solo Player, Author, and Narrator. And I have a new mic, so if things sound a little bit off, I'm still trying to get things dialed in, so bear with me. In our previous episode, as the companions make camp around the peaceful iron pillar infused with its golden mystical light, Eilwen, during her watch, activates her magic and calls the shadows to try to unlock the secrets of the pillar. One of the two-dimensional beings made of shadow stuff tries to lead her astray through a shadowy, twisting door. But she resists and binds the shadows to her will. She then uses the sapphire amulet to interact with the iron pillar. She sees a vision of the past. Her mother, Arwed, a beautiful young woman with blue eyes and blonde hair, with the sunset for a backdrop, is only a few years older than Eilwen and stands at the pillar as she is engaged by three trained warriors in dark leather armor and gray cloaks who bear the heraldry of three arrow shafts on a black field upon their brooches. They demand that Arwed give them the crown. Arwed says nothing, merely gives a grim smile. They attack her with bows and arrows, and Arwed defends herself by drawing power from the iron pillar in the form of an energy shield that consumes their projectiles upon contact. The men try to flee, but Arwed uses the shadow magic to drown them in the dark pitch-like pools that surround and overcome the terrified men as they flee. The shadows take their lives without mercy, without remorse, and without leaving any wounds. After the battle, Eilwen feels sickened and disturbed to see her mother standing over the bodies with a self-satisfied smile as she strips off everything of value. Eilwen returns to the present and yields her watch to Aron as she slips into a disturbed sleep. As we begin this episode, Eilwen's stats are Edge 2, Heart 1, Iron 1, Shadow 3, Wits 2. Current assets: Archer, initial box; Cutthroat, initial box; Shadow Walk, initial box. Current statuses: Supply 3 out of 5, Spirit 2 out of 5, Health 5 out of 5, Momentum 10 out of 10. Current debilities: none. Failure track: 6 out of 24. Current unspent XP: 3. And now on to episode 30 of Queen of Shadows. In the morning, the golden warmth that had graced the iron pillar the night before had long given way to the cold, hard truth that the iron now revealed. Eilwen hadn't felt any warmth after her vision the night before. She remembered the soldiers dying, the fear on their faces, her mother's smile as she had casually looted the bodies, as if they were mere objects. And maybe that's what they were after Arwed was finished with them. Fleshy, moldering shells bereft of the spirits that gave them life and being and meaning. Eilwen found it difficult to reconcile the beautiful, smiling young Arwed pawing smugly through the collected stuff of the fallen, like some common murderer and grave robber, against the remembered sights and sounds of her mother as an older woman, singing to her gently or dancing and laughing softly with father in the firelight. Who was Arwed? The sky yielded nothing, no answers beyond the black slate gray of morning clouds, as though some mocking cosmic being had clamped a lid firmly over the world to let humanity stew in their own problems, the pressure building with little release or relief. It didn't rain, but a stone gray pall settled on her heart as they gathered their supplies and continued their journey on the overgrown road south. Eilwen and Scratch in the lead. Okay, this is an undertake a journey move. I rolled a 4 on the action dice, plus 2 for her wits is a 6 against an 8 and a 10 on the challenge dice for a miss. Maybe I should have just done a progress move to try and conclude the journey. But I do like finishing all the boxes when I can. I could burn momentum and turn this into a weak hit, but I'll just see what it is. We are waylaid by a perilous event and need to pay the price. My failure track is now 7 out of 24. I'll just use the table on the pay the price move and see what I get. I rolled a 29. It is stressful. Well, paying the price, any kind of price, probably is. I have an idea of what this might be, but I'll use action and theme oracles to see if that's more interesting or adds some additional details. I rolled on action 33, aid, and on theme 77, problem. Next I will roll on the location chart, and I rolled a 14 and got a bridge. And on location descriptor, I rolled a 97 and got desolate. Putting all those together, I get aid a problem on a desolate bridge. Toward midday, the clouds had broken apart and the warm yellow sun shone through the trees of the forest, and Eilwen's heart lifted with the smell of oak and pine and dark, rich earth that knew little of mankind's mattock or axe. The river twisted down the valley, and the road at first followed after its watery companion. Now the rushing water, which had been to their left, had cut to their right, and over the course of the last hour had fallen sharply in elevation, diving into a deep ravine. As they neared a bend in the road, they heard frantic screams of a woman and children wafting over the sound of the rushing water, from the river that dove downward over rock-fallen limbs and trees in foamy, endless pursuit of the land's nadir. Scratch hissed and scrambled up a slope to hide behind a boulder, his scaled head peering around the rocky balustrade, tongue flicking in and out as if tasting the air for danger. Eilwen, in the lead, ran in a low crouch and peeked her head around the bend, using rock and tree for cover. Seath and Aron followed stealthily behind her. The road ahead came to a lonely, moss-covered bridge that passed over the now distant river in deep ravine. Far below the bridge, the rapids churned and sparkled like diamonds, dancing and leaping in endless, heedless joy over rounded, moss-covered emerald-green boulders. Okay, Mr. Oracle, is the bridge made of wood? Well, I think that is likely, and on a 9 I get a yes. Does Eilwen see people on the bridge? I'll say it's somewhat unlikely that there would be travelers on this lonely, unused road, but you never know. And on a 9 I got a yes. On the bridge, the front end of a covered wagon had fallen through the rotted wood, and 2 horses now dangled in the air beneath the bridge, tangled in their own reins and tackle and harnesses that still connected them to a tilting wagon's tongue. A young boy, perhaps 6 years old, blond hair flashing like pale gold in the sun, clung to the horse's mane, his face white with fright. A woman in perhaps her 30s yanked in vain upon leather reins as if that would somehow right the world and pull the horses back up through the void where they now thrashed and screamed far above ruthless rock and onrushing river. Harold's breath! Eilwen breathed a curse and started to run to their aid. Eilwen! Aron shouted, darting after her. She had only gone a few paces, though, when the wagon shifted some more, grinding against the wood, and fell a few more feet through the bridge's floor before it again caught on the bridge. The shifting wagon's motion ended in a jolt, and the boy lost a handhold, and now only one arm gripped on the horse's mane. He dangled in the air, legs kicking with those of the horses, as if he could somehow climb empty air to safety. Then, with a piercing scream, his hand slipped, and he plummeted through the air to the rocks far below. The woman screamed again. "Ben! No!" "No," Eilwen whispered, and she felt her heart crumple as she witnessed the small boy fall, arms flailing, screaming and spiraling to his death below. But there was nothing she could do, nothing she could have done. The body hit the rocks, leaving a sad, crumpled heap that lay motionless upon mossy boulders like some discarded rag. Eilwen felt bile rising within her, knowing the lad could not have survived such a fall. This is the pay the price from earlier, and Eilwen loses 1 spirit from this event. Her spirit is now 1 out of 5. I will now make the endure stress move, and I'm going to roll my action dice +1 for either heart or spirit. They are the same at the moment. I rolled a 4, +1 is a 5, against a 4 and a 3 on the challenge dice. 4, amazingly enough, a strong hit. That is lucky. She will shake it off and suffer -1 momentum. So her momentum goes down to 9 out of 10, and her spirit goes back up to 2 out of 5. She swallowed. The darkness threatened to overcome her, but she forced it away, and she gritted her teeth. These people needed help. Think big picture. Think like a queen. The boy's broken and battered body she could do nothing about. But maybe, just maybe, she could help the rest of this family out of their predicament. There was little time. She darted forward, yanking off her pack and pulling a coil of rope from its top. "About my waist," she said to Aron, urgency clipping her voice. "Then secure it. I'll go and help them." "Be careful, Eilwen," he nodded, and then with deft hands rapidly tied the rope around her. Then she ran. Does the wagon fall some more because Eilwen delayed? I think that is somewhat unlikely, and on a roll of a 4, I get a no. They ran down the road, Aron gripping the end of the rope as Eilwen's soft boots drummed onto the wooden bridge. He uncoiled it and looped it around about a firm stone post as she ran. The boards under her feet were cracked, spoiling, rotting, and covered with slick, dank moss. Okay, this is a face danger +2 for her edge to pull the family to safety in time. I rolled a 1 on the action dice, and wow, that was a really poor roll. With a 2, that gives me a total of 3 on the action dice. Let's see what we get on the challenge dice. I rolled a 4 and a 9 for a miss. Well, a miss unless I burn my hard 1 momentum of 9, and even then I can only turn this into a weak hit. But yes, I will do that. Eilwen is not going to let this entire family die when she has a chance to save some of them. So I spend my 9 momentum, turning the 4 into a 1, essentially, turning the miss into a weak hit. My momentum resets to 2 out of 10. Eilwen, followed by her brother and further back Seath, raced toward the wagon. She slipped once and fell, skinning her knees and banging her shoulder into a moss-covered post. But then she picked herself up and reached the wagon. Aron, behind her, wrapped his end around a jutting boulder and held it fast. Seath jogged up beside her brother, panting, and helped secure the rope as well. The wagon shifted alarmingly, and Eilwen saw that the bridge floor wouldn't last much longer, as rotted wood spiraled down into the misty waters below. She sliced through the canvas ties and tore back the coverings. Inside, 3 girls clutched each other, whimpering, tears on smudged faces. "This way! Out the back! The wagon is going to fall! Now!" Hearing the commanding authority in her voice, they moved to obey, and she lifted them out of the back end of the wagon to safety. "Go back, that way," she pointed to Seath, who waved them toward him. "I'll help your mother," Eilwen said. The 3 girls, holding hands and crying, moved toward Seath. Eilwen then moved parallel to the length of the wagon, to the front where the mother still wept, staring at the crumpled body of her son far below. "Ben! Ben! Oh, Ben!" "You must come away," Eilwen called to her. "The wagon, it will collapse through the bridge at any moment." Does the mother hear and heed her? I think that is somewhat unlikely, as she is distracted, and on a roll of a 4, I get a no. "My Fen," the mother moaned, white-knuckled hands gripping reins to the mounts that hung entangled below the bridge. The horses twisted in the air, screaming, kicking. Eilwen didn't see the children's father, if there was one, anywhere around. "Please," Eilwen called to her again. "Think of your other children." She looked again at the ravine. "Forget the wagon. It is lost." This is a compel move using heart. I rolled a 4 on the action dice, plus Eilwen's heart of 1 for a whopping 5 against an 8 and a 5 on the challenge dice for a miss. Failure track goes up to 7 out of 24. She either refuses or demands something that costs Eilwen greatly. Let's ask a few more questions. Is the father of the family on the rocks below as well? On a 50-50 chance, I rolled a 4 and get a no. Does the mother come away? On a 50-50 chance, I get a 2. That's a no. Why not? The boy is dead. There is no father. Is it because maybe there's something valuable on the horses? On a roll of a 7, I get a yes. Let's focus on the last part of the compel move failure. The woman will agree but demands something that costs our heroine greatly. The woman finally noticed Eilwen, her eyes wide and haunted. Then she stared back down. "Fen, he was so brave. He tried to get the saddlebags. She swallowed. Oh, Fen. The wagon," Eilwen shouted as the wood began to creak. "If we cut the horses free, we can save the goods in the wagon." "Do not understand," the woman shouted, her voice ragged in its desperation, her hands clenched white-knuckled on the wagon bed. The horses and the saddlebags. If it falls, it's lost." Eilwen looked at her dumbfounded. What was worth the cost to risk her own son's life? That is a very good question. What is she so dead set about getting from those saddlebags? Let's ask the Oracle. I'm going to do a 2-word combination. Fortunately, magnificent. Well, the first thing that comes to my mind is she has the other half of the crown, but that's highly unrealistic for such an epic quest for the other half to fall into Eilwen's hands now. Eilwen has barely scratched the surface on that quest, milestone-wise, and that seems pretty unlikely to me, so I doubt it is that, but let's see what Mark's adventure glyphs say. The MAG, M-A-G button on at rpgsolo.com. Oh, well, okay, you're not going to believe it. I took a screen capture of the mag results, and I will put it on the show notes, but the top left image is actually a crown. Yes, a crown. Well, what else do we have? An arrow through a heart, 3 crossed swords, twin hands in a sphere of magic, 3 knives, a 4-leaf clover, a person screaming, notes with hearts, bubbles. It's important, the woman said stubbornly, and to Eilwen's consternation, she leaned out, trying to reach the saddlebags, and the wagon groaned in protest. I'll get the bags, Eilwen said. Please, come away. Does the wagon fall through with this woman leaning over? I think there's a 50-50 chance. On a roll of a 3, I get a no. This fulfills the demand something of you which costs you dearly portion of that move that Eilwen failed. Even though the woman isn't narratively demanding anything, if Eilwen is put in mortal danger to get it, it fulfills that clause. The woman finally acquiesced, looking over her shoulders at the flailing and screaming horses' legs kicking at the heedless air. Eilwen helped the woman out of the wagon, then she quickly studied the horses thrashing below. The hole they had fallen through was now jammed with the wagon bed and front wheels. She couldn't get through that way. Hold the rope fast. I'll swing down to them, she told Aron. Eilwen, what are you... She aimed her trajectory, grabbed the rope with 2 hands above her, and then leaped into midair, swinging towards the twisting tangle of reins, harnesses, and horseflesh that thrashed in the air below her. Okay, this is face danger plus edge to get the saddlebags without harm. I rolled a 6 on the action dice, plus 2 for her edge is an 8 against a 4 and a 3 for a strong hit on the challenge dice. Momentum is now 3 out of 10. Air rushed past her as she swung. She slammed into the horses. They thrashed even more, hooves carving the air, screaming with fright, but she avoided their lashing limbs. Then, with one hand, she gripped the rope. With the other, she gripped the horse's tackle. She spun with the screaming, frantic horses in midair. Above her, the rope scraped against the rotted bridge, and bits of dirt and moss and moldering wood fell down about her, the remnants and ravages of time drifting through the air. She ducked her head and blinked her eyes against the falling debris as the wagon shifted and groaned even more. She released the rope above her, grateful that it was still tied about her waist, as vertigo hit her. Spinning above the rushing river, she yanked out her knife and slashed at the saddlebag straps. She replaced her knife, then she grabbed the bags and called for Aron to pull her up. Does the wagon fall now? I think it is somewhat likely. On a roll of a 9, I get a yes. As she did so, she kicked away from the horses, and the wagon fell completely through the bridge's floor, rushing past her. The screaming horses and wagon, trailing bits of rotted wood, spun in the sunlight, and then crashed into the thrashing river below. Her eyes followed their trajectory, and the rushing sound of water below obliterated the sounds of the crashing wagon and screams of broken horses who, now like the boy, lay in a broken, motionless heap across the unyielding rocks, their blood and viscera marring the erstwhile pristine, roiling river. Aron pulled her up, and she clutched at the bridge's edge as her brother's strong arms reached under her elbow and brought her to safety. She looked over her shoulder. The center of the bridge now had a massive hole in it. It still might be crossable if they stayed near the railings and away from the center. She lay for a moment on her side, panting from the adrenaline rush. Are you all right? Aron asked. She nodded and gave him a tight smile. Then she stood and undid the rope about her waist. The older woman moved towards her with some difficulty as her 3 children clung to her limbs. Eilwen lifted the flap of the saddlebag and looked inside, and the woman gasped, "No." Okay, we need to find out what is really in here. Does she actually have the crown? I mean, I guess she could, but for quest purposes, I will say it is unlikely. If no, then she probably does have something crown-related or some other similar fortune. So unlikely on a roll of a 2, and I get a no. Eilwen pulled out a small, worn tube made of a hard leather hide. Are there any obvious marks on the case that identify what it is? I think that's somewhat unlikely. On a roll of a 6, I get a no, but... What's this? Eilwen held the plain tube of hard leather. This is what you risked your family's life over? That's mine, the woman said bluntly, raising one hand toward it. Her 3 children clung to her, weeping. She reached for it, and Eilwen snatched it away. Please, the woman said again and held out her hand. I just saved your life and the life of your children. I think you owe me an explanation, Eilwen said, raising an eyebrow and continuing to hold on to the case. Will the woman give an explanation willingly? I think that is somewhat unlikely. On a 4, I get a no. I thank you for helping me, but my business is my own, she said, hand still extended. Your boy, Fen, was it? He lies dead on the rocks below because of this? Eilwen frowned and pointed at the river behind her with the case. She spun on the woman. Have you no heart? What is in here that is worth more than the lives of your own children? Fen is dead? The eldest daughter asked in a quavering voice. She was perhaps 12 years of age, and with a moan she collapsed into a sitting position at her mother's feet. The moan devolved into ragged sobbing. That in turn set the other children off to discordant wails. You wouldn't understand, the mother said over the soft sobs of her children. Hush, children, hush, she said, holding them. She sat down among them, caressing them, then kissing the top of the head of the eldest. The woman then looked in anguish towards the direction of the river, wind blowing wisps of blonde hair free from a single braid. Eilwen felt her heart melt. There was no doubt that this woman loved her children, but still. After some time, the sobs of the children turned into soft cries and sniffles, and one by one, they studied Eilwen, still holding white-knuckled to their mother's dress or limbs. Hush now, the mother cooed. Hush. Fen has gone to be with our ancestors. The anguish in the mother's voice was undeniable. Eilwen sighed and sat down on a nearby boulder near the other woman. I could just open it, you know, and you couldn't stop me. I have 2 armed men with me, and I myself am no stranger to the blade. But I'll not do that. I'd rather you chose to trust me. But the choice is yours, she said. Then she handed the unopened case over to the woman. This sounds like a compel move, rolling plus heart. I rolled a 5 on the action dice, plus 1 for Eilwen's heart for a total of 6, against a 2 and a 2 for a strong hit with a low positive match. Ooh, very nice. I will work that into the story. Aron caught Eilwen's eyes and nodded in approval. Thank you, the woman said, looking stunned. She disentangled one arm from around her children and took the tube and turned it over and over in her hands, caressing the leather. I'm Eilwen. What's your name? Eilwen asked. Valerie, the mother said. Give them some food, Seath, Eilwen said, standing. Aron and I will go for Fen's body. We'll camp here for the night, attempt to resupply, and then continue our journey. Valerie, were you heading north or south? Eilwen asked the woman. Seath nodded and dug into his pack, then passed out some jerky and some berries he had collected along the way to Valerie and her daughters. Valerie didn't say anything for a while. North, she finally said, subdued. She looked up at Eilwen, then looked back down at the case, a strange mixture of what? Shame and possibly determination on her face? Gratitude? Her children continued to sniffle, wiping tears and snot on their mother's dirty and travel-marred dress. There is some tale surely as to why you're here with young children on this dangerous and abandoned road. While I long to hear it, I'll not pry."
"Here you be," Seath said gently. "Food for all."
They were all polite children and mumbled their thanks, though the eldest daughter looked over the bridge's edge, and then buried her head in her mother's shoulder and began sobbing again. For the rest of the afternoon, Aron and Eilwen carefully climbed down to the river, and with the aid of their rope made their way to the riverbed and then across the rocks where the ruined body of Fen lay in a crumpled, broken heap, the foaming water rushing about it. Okay, the question. Is Fen still alive? I am going to set that at almost impossible. And on a roll of a 2, I gotta know. Aron knelt beside the lad's body. There was no need to check for a pulse. Aron's blue eyes met Eilwen's, and he shook his head. An unspoken grief passed between them. They wrapped the boy's body in a makeshift sling made from a spare cloak provided by Valerie. About them lay the scattered remains of the wagon, and Eilwen poked about for anything of use. Above them, some distance on a ledge above, Seath waited with the rope. Okay, this is a resupply move, and we are rolling plus wits. I rolled a 6 on the action dice, plus 2 for Eilwen's wits for an 8. Against a 2 and an 8 on the challenge dice for a weak hit. On a weak hit, we can take up to 2 supply, but suffer -1 momentum for each. I will do that. Momentum goes down to 1 out of 10. Supply goes up to 4 out of 5. Eilwen found some arrows and some packaged hard bread in a half-smashed barrel. With some difficulty, she and Aron managed to get Fen's small body up the cliff face and back to the others as evening fell. Seath's worried face relaxed when he helped Eilwen and Aron reach the ledge, and together they all returned to the camp and entered the firelight. Aron carried Fen's cold body. He set the now stiffening body gently in front of Valerie, his face grave. He didn't survive the fall, he said. "I'm sorry I wasn't able to reach him sooner, when he was in danger," Eilwen said, touching Valerie on the shoulder. Valerie moved a trembling finger along Fen's jawbone, the side that hadn't been crushed by the fall. She touched his blonde hair, still sticky with his blood. "Fen," she gasped, and then warm tears splashed on her son's cold face. "Oh, my dear, sweet, precious Fen. I'm sorry. Fen. My Fen. Then she fell into Eilwen's arms, silent sobs racking her body as they both fell to their knees, the stiffening young body between them. Eilwen held Valerie, feeling her own emotions surface, and she swallowed against the pain that rose in her own breast as she thought of mothers and children, of families and death and pain, and the travails wrought by choices in an unforgiving land. She thought of mother and herself, and of Aron and father, and of a small green dress in a hidden iron box, covered in white dust at the base of an unforgivable iron tower. And a sympathetic groan of pain whispered between them. All right, before we hit the outro, I wanted to share a listener review I received back in September of 2025. I don't always share reviews because, honestly, I don't get very many of them, or if I do, I'm not really sure how to find them, as I don't really get notified of reviews unless they're posted on either my Patreon or on Podbean or to my email. So for me to see other reviews, I'd have to sign up on all the platforms this show is syndicated on, and that's a bit much, but maybe I'll try and do a bit more of that this year. There's still much for me to learn, as we're getting close to coming up on our first anniversary of Roll, Ponder, and Play. This review was sent to me by email from Lauren, and Lauren writes, I'm on episode 17 and already dreading the end of Queen of Shadows. I just wanted to thank you for your efforts putting together such a fantastic story and production. This is easily one of the best RPG podcasts I've heard, better in many ways than Me, Myself, and I, every bit as enjoyable as The Bad Spot. Story, voices, music, editing, all of it is top-notch. As an audio production professional myself, I appreciate your attention to mix, overall level, balance, etc. Keep up the good work, Lauren. Thank you, Lauren. I am, as always, whenever I read that, blown away by that response. I don't know if I agree with it, but I'm appreciative nonetheless that people find what I do entertaining in any way. I'm also finding out that one of the best things about this solo role-play podcast hobby is the people you meet. It's a bit ironic to say that about something built around a solo game, but there it is. In my follow-on communications with Lauren, we found out we have several things in common, and we became friends. So fast forward to January of this year, of 2026, when Lauren invited me to playtest a Dragonbane adventure module he had created. He invited my son and I, and over, I think it was 2 sessions, we made it through the adventure, and we both enjoyed it. So I wanted to give his adventure module and Lauren a shout out. I invite you to check out The Alchemist's Monster, a Dragonbane Foundry VTT module, available at foolboongames.itch.io. It's well written, and the VTT module is visually pleasing, and I think you'll enjoy it. You can find all the details there. That's foolboongames.itch.io, with Foolboon being spelled Fulllboon. And I will paste that link in the show notes. And speaking of people I meet, I'm part of the Solo Roleplayers Network, and I have met some wonderful people there as well. Be sure to check out other like-minded shows at soloroleplayersnetwork.com. Thank you for joining us, and I sincerely hope you enjoyed what you experienced. If you would like to support Roll, Ponder, and Play, you can do so in a number of ways. You can give the show a positive review on your podcatcher of choice. You can share the show with your friends and family and on your socials. Nothing beats word of mouth as a way to bring in new listeners. You can join my Patreon at patreon.com/rollponderandplay. There you can find show notes and transcripts, as well as other projects I'm involved in. And paid subscribers get access to subscriber-only episodes, shows, and other content. Finally, you can simply reach out to me and say hello. Comments from you are what inspire me to keep doing this, and I'd sincerely love to hear what you think of the show. To do so, you can find me on my Patreon, or on Discord at Roll, Ponder, and Play, or by email at rollponderandplay@gmail.com. Until we meet again on Roll, Ponder, and Play, may your own dice rolls ever bring you success.